Hey everyone, looks like we are live. Um, so hi everyone, if you want to go around and introduce yourself.
I'm Stanley.
Hey, I'm Braxton.
I'm Michelle.
I'm Ken.
And I'm RC.
Hi, I'm Rachel, and welcome to our weekly, more casual Tex-Trek reaction to Star Trek episodes. Although this was not the most casual Star Trek episode in the world.
Indeed, it was
This
not.
was a hard pivot from those old scientists, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Visit Ross from Friends. Pivot.
Yeah, that.
Pivot.
Honestly, I did have a thought. I was like, am I going to be watching these people sing and dance next week? Like that's what I've been told.
They said, "Oh, we're gonna cleanse their palate."
Yeah.
Every other week they're cleansing our palate, apparently.
Yeah.
Which is, look, I'm not complaining.
I'm not I enjoy this episode was really well done, but I was I felt things at the end of it that I was like, wow. Exactly.
I mean, it was very intense.
Yeah,
it was
a
super intense episode for sure.
Mm-hmm. It was. It made me feel very bloodthirsty.
First reactions.
Yikes!
When I first watched it, I thought that perhaps this was the best episode of Strange New Worlds. I thought that Babs. Damn, Babs! Somebody help me, Babs.
Oh, the actor.
Wosaka? No.
Dr.
Mabenga. So, dude, the acting by Babs was absolutely amazing. Like, I had no idea that he had all those acting chops. Dude, literally, he and Nurse Chapel have been to hell and back. I loved it. Kind of near the end when he was about to go out, after the boy had died and he was going into the field and getting dressed, and Nurse Chapel was kill those motherfuckers. And I was like, yes, I want blood. And then I knew that he was going to kill the dude.
How to pronounce his last name.
Okay, I thought you were getting at me for cursing, but
I was just saying if you want to try it.
But then at the end, I wasn't nervous. I was kind of nervous for Dr. Mbanga. I was like, ooh man, I hope that he doesn't go to jail. But Nurse Chapel was sitting in the chair, and I was like, oh yeah, that's his ride or die. And then she lied. I said, oh yeah, dude, they've been to hell and back. And she lied. I thought this episode was great. I think it could be recency bias, but I think that this is Strange New Worlds, the best episode.
I love that Braxton loves it.
I mean, yeah, Braxton, you certainly have a type of episode that you love. I'm glad to actually hear mimicking Michelle about me last week. It's nice to see you smiling about a Strange New World episode.
Yes.
But this one, okay.
Really? Is my tone generally negative? Oh wow. Oh wow.
Well, you seem to like the more intense episodes, which is not a bad thing, but yeah.
I do like action, dude.
Well, there's nothing wrong with action, but this one was, I mean, yeah, this one was super intense, and it was like Star Trek MASH, which I thought was very interesting. How they did the MASH elements in there.
It's like you were I was thinking it because it's been a long time since I've watched any MASH, but a friend of mine's been recently watching it. And someone I know through TikTok, so she's been posting about it, and so my mind made those connections too.
Yes, and it was nice to see where Baylock is. That was nice to see. So that was good.
I'm in the process of rewatching Lost, and so I really love a show that balances flashbacks that are relevant to the current storyline. And I thought this episode did that really well.
Yes.
Yeah, it reminded me of
I think that
Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
It was very Deep Space Nine in its kind of tone, and I also
was thinking that too.
Right, and TNG's The Wounded. I thought about that episode as well, where O'Brien and his old captain are there, and he's like, what is it? Was it the Cardassians or was it
Cardassians?
It was the
Cardassians.
Those episodes were much tamer than this episode. I mean,
also it's 2023. It's
right.
not,
I know
That's
what
you know,
I'm saying.
is, yeah.
If they did Deep Space Nine, if they did the Dominion War now, this gives a sense of what they would have done, how they would have done it.
Yeah,
it was
no,
very graphic. It was
reminded me-
like Walking Dead level graphics sometimes.
Yeah.
With the
It
with the wounds.
reminded me of later Deep Space Nine a lot. It also reminded me a bit of Duet. Of like you're just being like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel about this guy.
So Michelle, now you're praising like the wounds and like that makeup that way, but like what did you think about the Klingon head this week?
You know, I'm not a big connoisseur when it comes to how the Klingons look. I love all the different types of Klingons. So I love, like, well, maybe I don't love the TOS Klingons. Like, we could have done better, people. But I appreciated the ambassador. I thought he looked almost Warfish a little bit. I don't know. What was your take, Braxton?
I thought it looked plastic and fake. You know, like I don't know,
TNG, right?
maybe it's because like you know he was a balding Klingon, which I don't remember seeing balding Klingons before. Like I don't know, they should have put more hair on the wig.
I needed to pay more
looked a little
attention
plastic.
to that. Once I see the Klingon, I just kind of accept it, and I don't look too deeply. I should look more closely
I think at first I had the thing like he looks a little fake, and then my mind was like, it's all fake. And I just like accept it and move on. Like,
now I want to see what it looks like on like a really good 4K TV. I'm like,
Yeah,
it makes
I
it
think
more
maybe
evident.
that's
It doesn't look that great on
because
it.
I thought it looked like worse when I watched it originally on a laptop, and then I watched it on my TV, which is like not the best 4K TV in the world, but it is a 4K TV. And I thought it looked slightly worse there.
It was interesting because on the previously on segments, they flashed back to Discovery and the Discovery Klingons.
Yeah.
And then they went to this Klingon, which was much more TNG. And I think that you're probably going to stick with much more TNG, especially after the way they played Worf in Picard Season 3, which is how they should have played him, of course.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to go back to the Discovery Klingons, which is, to me, a good thing.
Also, the way people reacted very strongly. My opinion about Discovery Klingons is once they added hair, I don't think they look that different. Like this, but yeah, the way people react, I don't think we're gonna see them play around with Klingon makeup for a while.
Speaking, because we were talking about DS9 a little bit ago, it was, if I may have missed it because I did only get a chance to watch the episode once, and I was working, was the implication that Trask was part of Section 31? Or was he just Special Forces? I
don't think there wasn't any direct reference to Section 31, or I didn't pick that up.
Yeah.
Okay, they kind of made him sound like they were their mission
special
was not,
ops.
No.
I think he was like special ops kind of, but they weren't Section 31.
I thought the Andorian makeup was fantastic.
Oh, it was.
The Andorian makeup was really good. I will say it was vague enough that like if he ever came back and they said he was Section 31, my brain would be like, yeah, that's like would totally accept that though.
Except
I think they just said Black Ops, but it could be like not every. That maybe some people don't know what Section 31 is, so maybe that we just call that Black Ops.
Stan, I'm dying to hear what you thought of the episode.
Yeah. This was a good episode. I think where I'm struggling is with a few of with the execution of some of its themes. Performances were stellar as always. The visuals were stellar as always. I loved that cruise liner ship at the beginning. It was a really cool new design. I'm excited to hear whose daughter it was named after, because that's not a historical figure. So it's going to be just a really cool insider thing for that writer and the family, which I think is lovely when they're able to dip those things in. We got a really great cost of war story here. We got more about why and how Chapel and M'Benga have become so close, which I love to see. It was a little wonky in a few places for me. And I don't know if it was the actor or the direction, but the guest Klingon was so not Klingon that, and I guess that was sort of the point with him running away and being a coward and using someone else's story to tell his story. But that also didn't end up making a whole lot of sense the way that they talked about it. And the way that the fight happened at the end was really cheesy to me, like not even just wonky. It felt cheesy and it pulled me out of the episode. Just like, I love Clint Howard and I want him in more Star Trek shows, but his inclusion this week really pulled me. And maybe like it was like, this is a really rough, dark segment of the episode. We gotta bring in a cat's purring. We gotta bring in a Clint Howard somehow to cut the tension. So thank you, Braxton, for helping cut the tension.
Stan, I agree. I wanted to see Dr. Mbenga slash his throat. I wanted blood, dude.
I don't mind what we learned about Mbenga this week. I'm conflicted by the execution. Like, I don't mind moral ambiguity in my Trek characters. In fact, I'm going to say something negative about Captain Pike that I actually kind of love. He is woefully naive, especially in this episode, but it's been in a couple, like last season. Don't worry, Una, I'll deal with Starfleet. And then he didn't. A couple episodes ago when Uhura is going out of her mind legitimately and it was like, you should lock me away. This other person going through the same thing nearly destroyed the ship. And he's like, nah, don't worry about it. It's like, dude. And now in this episode, there was maybe it was just a little bit of the dialogue between him and Una at one point. But
it reminded me of
in the captain's quarters.
Yeah, it's like Symbiosis from TNG, where it was like Picard and Beverly were arguing about like, well, it's easy to be philosophical, but it's not easy to be philosophical when you're faced with human suffering. And I think that's and Pike is kind of coming from that what they call it a place of privilege, where the Enterprise was not involved in the war. He was not involved in the war. We don't know how much action Pike has seen, but he's embracing the idealism, and Una is kind of coming at it from like, well, in the abstract that works, but the reality is these people still need to heal, and went through a lot of
and
tough stuff.
And I love that she had the solution. She was like, "No, Chris, we got to get this guy off the ship sooner." Like, I love that she was the one who came up with the solution. She's recognizing and reminding the captain, like, "Hey, you gotta take a look at the full picture."
Well, Una has always been. Go ahead, Rachel.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, it reminded me of Sisko's, I can't remember what season in Deep Space Nine it is, but he was talking to the Admiral about the Maquis, and he said, like, about Earth, like, it's easy to be a saint in paradise. And that was, like, kind of reminded me of that.
Well, I also agree that I think Pike was a bit naive in this episode. I think it's clear with Una's through line, not just in this episode, but through the series and even back through the menagerie and the cage. Una is ultimately, I think, a much stronger commander, captain figure than Pike is. Remember, even back in the cage, Pike was going to give up. Time for him to retire. Time for him to go do this, go picnic out, a picnic lunch every day. And it was, number one who took command of the ship. Number one was in command of the Enterprise for most of that original pilot, right? And so you saw that. And then, she is a much stronger commanding officer, in my opinion. And that showed again today when she turned to Chris and said, Chris, basically in the captain's quarters, Chris, get this settled, get your people under control. And for Pike to just sort of, I don't know.
I have an idea. Let's just invite all the people that were traumatized by the Klingon War to a dinner with a Klingon who was heavily involved in the war. I know why he did it. Like that was, directive kind of to put on a good front. But I think with Pike, it's interesting because he is a different kind of captain, and he's very empathetic and he's very sensitive in a lot of ways, and he's kind but direct. Like he's strong. I love Pike, but you're right. There is a weakness in that idealism that he's showing. And I think Jill said it in the chat. She said someone tweeted that Pike and Mbenga's scene, that last scene was like Superman talking with Batman, right? Like I kind of like that dichotomy a little bit because Pike is more of an idealist here. And yeah, he was more easily ready to give up Starfleet. Even in the first episode of Strange New Worlds in the first season, he was, just chilling, literally. And, with his horses and his girlfriend or his friends with benefits, whatever, with Patel. But I think that Una brings out a good part of him, that part of him that, he does know that it's not always ideal. He's faced the Gorn, and maybe he just needs to have, I hate to say it, but some more combat experience, some more, and we may be getting this down the pike, so to speak. We'll see.
I think it's fair to say that Pike has had combat experience. I mean, he's been in conflicts, but not
hand to hand like that. The Klingon War looked very trench warfare almost. Yep. It was that looked really rough, and I love the way that they showed the realism of it, and the way that the Starfleet officers, they had almost armor type suits on them, right? Like it felt like a very military thing. And yeah, it was like MASH, but I enjoyed how Chapel was very much just jumping in. She has to reach in and massage that guy's heart till it starts pumping again. Like there was some, you're in the 24th century, but you have to sometimes be an old country doctor and fly by the seat of your pants. So the way that they kind of did the medic part of it was good.
Yes.
Love anytime in Star Trek when you have to see the doctors do more modern our techniques for doing something and their medical as proof. No, they actually are a good doctor. It's not just they point something at an organ or fix.
Dr. Mbanga is a miracle worker with that transporter buffer, dude. He really knows what to do with that. He's using it in the field, using it on his daughter, teaching Chapel how to use it, dude. Chapel, who briefed her for this job? Didn't they tell her so you're gonna come, you're gonna be the head nurse?
No one had told her that. And that I love that though, the whole transporter part of it, because it calls back to his daughter, which makes sense. And it also gives you that moment where Chapel is faced with possibly having to kill that, to just say goodbye to that officer, and Mbenga does it for her because he's trying to preserve her. And we get the green stuff comes back, and how Mbenga's trying to not use it, and that whole thing. But was he? There was something going on in the chat. Wasn't Mbenga Black Ops before he became a doctor? I wasn't clear on that.
They said he was. We need the knife. We need the shadow. What do they call him?
I think the chat said the ghost.
The ghost. Yeah,
the ghost.
Because this is one I was waiting to talk. My guess is that he was their doctor, but had to develop skills to stay up with them,
and was apparently the best.
Yeah, I don't know. He's fast. He can get through. Apparently, like a ghost.
He also knows all the right. He also knows all the right anatomy to cause the right injuries.
Unlike
Aaron, that's a great connection right there.
No Klingon anatomy.
I love the TAS connection here. Maybe, right?
What's the TAS connection?
Aaron just said he bets this is where Chapel gets the idea to use the transporters twice in TAS to help save the crew.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we saw this in Picard too, right? There was the transporter situation. Transporters can come in handy for Starfleet medical, or not so handy.
Scotty was alive in there for a while.
That's right. Relics.
I love the idea of putting someone who's in really who's in medical jeopardy, in stasis, in the transporter buffer. It's what a good tool for that. Just put them away until we can get an organ regenerator. She's like Nurse Chapel was no problem. He's you forgot the organ regenerator was broken. It was
except for the fact that when they had the entire, because what they established in was it my man Bashir, that the transporter included all of the neural network, and so in order to have those five profiles in the transporter system of our main cast, it took up all of the computer systems because it had to preserve their neural networks, and that's why they were recreated in the holodeck. So it's a little bit weird about the idea of using the transporter to store. I mean, it seems a bit flying in the face of what happened in Our Man Bashir. But anyway,
I wonder
that's
if
a
Our
canon
Man
thing, and I know I
Bashir
get
is
in
like
trouble.
it had to like because it was such like an emergency and was having to grab it at the last second. Maybe it was like couldn't do it the most optimized way.
And with Mbenga's daughter last season, there was definitely a mention that it was a separate, like, isolated transporter system. So it wasn't like connected to the rest of the show. It might have been taking up everything in that transporter, but maybe it was isolated in a way that didn't require to take all of the ship.
Right.
I also kept thinking it was a lot of effort, though, like to save one person, given how many, like the volume of people that were like there was a lot of hesitation about it. Like I was thinking, like this is a war, like their buckets full of people are transporting in. I figured there'd be a bit of a faster decision making process, like do it right now, as opposed to like, oh, maybe we can get him a bio bed, and then just it seemed like there's more discussion than I would expect.
I did like how Chapel was like, okay, Burns go over here. Like she started to, as soon as they came in, she started to separate them by injury. So again, I think we're getting a really good insight into Starfleet's medical area, which is cool, but also the trauma that was left through the Klingon War that no one's really looking at. And then you also have to remember, like, we had Ortegas in this episode as well, who we didn't see any of what she had been through. It didn't look like she was with Mbenga and Chapel. She may have been elsewhere assigned, right? Piloting somewhere through the Klingon War. Yeah. But her performance, Melissa Navia's performance, was so effective because it was subtle. So like it was just under the surface, right? Like obviously when she's talking to her, it comes out right when the ambassador walks. Like, it's like the worst time. Like when you're just at work and you're just talking, and then all of a sudden like a customer comes in you didn't see, or whatever.
The boss just appears behind you.
Whoopsies! Oh, like they're standing behind me, aren't they? That was
how after that I handled to me very realistically, where everyone's just like really awkward about it at first. It just like doesn't mention it. They're like, we all heard it, but no one wants to talk about it.
But like Ortegas was very measured in her anger too. Like it wasn't this kind of like, it was definitely coming from a place of like she was trying for Pike. She was trying, but she just couldn't take, she did not trust the ambassador. And what was it? What was his? I forget his name, which is terrible.
I think it was
Doc Ra. Oh wait,
Ra, right? Yeah. So he, she was, but I felt like her story really grounded the episode in a different way. And I mean, obviously Bab's performance was phenomenal, and so was Jess Bush's. But for me, Melissa Navia's was the most affecting in that it was this subtle, you don't know too much, but you can tell there's more stuff going on under the surface, that seriousness. Because we often see her like, I'm flying the ship, I'm fun. But it's like, well, she has a serious side to her too.
And I agree. And I think it's also part of it is we've gotten to see so much less of her getting to do like having these moments where it's like Jess Bush and Babs are like always great, and we've always seen them be great, and this is like the first time we've really gotten to see her.
This was probably the biggest Ortegas episode we've had, but it still wasn't like just Ortegas, but I didn't mind that it was the three of them. I thought that it was cool to have the story kind of spread out. But I do think it was cool to see her in the, again, we see her in the captain's chair, right? We saw that in season 1. Like, she's very capable, and she's also, but she has, kind of like when we saw in the season finale last year, where she was down on Romulans, right? Like, she played that role from TOS where the guy was like racist against Romulans. Like, she's also here. She has that kind of, I don't know, xenophobia a little bit. And it comes from a place of trauma. It comes from a place of experience to an extent, but it's like the wounded in TNG, like, and what Pike said, like, can you be like, we have to allow for redemption. We can't just judge everybody with a blanket. But here, the ambassador was a huge part of the war. So I think that was the big mistake of the Federation, to get somebody like that involved in peace talks.
Yeah, it's not like some random Klingon guy who was never involved, and it's just like, no, I'm just Klingon. I'm not. I was like, no. He was actively like two of the people on the ship actively were fighting against this guy.
I wish we saw more of what he actually did. I think that's one of the things that was missing for me is we learn in dialogue he ordered the murder of children. And like, I don't want to see a child murdered on screen, to be very clear, but like, I want to see him give that order. Like, it's the classic show don't tell that they say to writers all the time. They told us things about this character, and yet we were seeing something very different.
Well,
so it was hard to get on that side.
You saw the civilian casualties coming into the MASH unit.
Yeah,
That's
but
true.
what I'm saying is, because what we saw of him on screen was so not that. It wasn't very Klingon. It was very jovial. It was like, look, and tick off accomplishment after accomplishment after accomplishment since the Klingon War for peace, being poster boy for the Federation. So like it was really hard for me to get on board with, this is a bad person at his core, because I am one of those people who is like, I want to believe no one is beyond redemption so long as they're willing to work for it. But that is a concept. Like Una says, that's a lovely concept,
Abstract,
but in practice, it's very different. And so I just wish we saw in the flashbacks more of this Klingon being what we were told he was.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because everything was like from Mbenga's point of view. If you could have like heard it over, like, I'm saying radio, that's not what it would have been like, but like him giving the order or something.
Revenge of the
Sith. I think there's like a mix of like not wanting to show too much, where the episode's already pretty graphic.
Well, you think of like, what was it, Revenge of this episode 3 of Star Wars, not to cross the streams, but in the younglings, Master Anakin, what do? The lightsaber comes out. You know what's down. Like, we didn't really see this guy in a position where he was actively killing people. We didn't need to see it, but we needed to see him in that position. He seemed like a very genuine guy. I don't know why he put his hands on Mbenga at the end. That didn't make any sense to me. I know they were sparring, a few scenes before, but I didn't get that he was trying to hurt Mbenga. I think he was frustrated because he wanted to get Mbenga on his side. It felt like he was genuinely trying to me.
I think Mbenga killed him. Mbenga
he did. But like, he put his hand on Mbenga's
straight up
shoulder.
murdered him.
Yeah. But like, I don't understand the setup there. Like, why was he even provoking Mbenga? Like, why was he? Like, why was he tussling with him?
He wasn't.
What was that?
Yeah,
I don't think he realized.
Did you see the scene where they were like grappling before Mbenga stabbed him?
No. Yeah, but that wasn't him being. That Klingon was not provoking Mbenga. He put his arm on Mbenga's shoulder. Mbenga took advantage of that physical touch and started the argument and murdered him.
He definitely murdered him. It was that quick back and forth before Mbenga took the knife, where they were kind of grappling, that I didn't understand.
Stuff that was in the shadows?
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought that was more like he did, that Dr. Odd did not realize, like, he thought he could still win Mbenga over. I don't think he realized, like, the extent to which, like, they were not on the same page.
Right.
We knew he was going to Hulk out. This guy didn't. Yeah.
Pushiness to the Klingon that, like, because I think you maybe read him a little more genuinely than I did, where I thought, like, he just seemed to be pushing everyone, like, where I was like, read the room, like, we're like calling himself one of the victims.
Yeah.
Going after Mbenga, Mbenga makes it clear, like, I'm not interested. He keeps pushing him, and I'm like, I'm not saying this deserves.
Don't make me
murder,
angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm
but,
angry.
like-
This is what's happening. Yeah,
But like,
it's odd.
He's also a
yeah, it's-
Klingon who at least thinks he's good at peace negotiation. So,
Right.
like, if that
Yeah.
method had been successful, and maybe they could have demonstrated that in some way, but if that method had been successful with other people that he had dealt with,
Yeah, it was another
just
thing that they
being
did in
consistent.
dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, you heard Mabenga say multiple times, "Please leave me alone, get out, go away." So Mabenga was trying, and he was ignoring
yeah,
those pleas. So the question was, does that translate into provoking Mabenga because he was ignoring the request to get out of his space? But I don't think it was it wasn't a Klingon style provocation. I mean, basically, Mbenga was looking for any excuse, I think, at that point to kill him. And at the end, when he said, "I'm glad he's dead," and the way that Babs delivered this whole thing, the whole episode was just incredible. It was so good. And the question is, do we have now a chief medical officer who is a murderer?
Yes.
And
We do.
I also
maybe.
did anyone
He
else
had a good reason though, dude. Like,
did anyone else
yeah.
get the
So
feeling when he said like why couldn't you leave me alone? My immediate thought for some reason went to Benedict Cumberbatch's con of saying why wouldn't you let me sleep or every exact line, but
Yeah.
that's where my mind went. Like
Well, it
like that was
reminded-
a sign
it
to me that he was about to Hulk out was when he said it that
Yeah.
just the way he said
I mean,
I
but
grew up
sure,
on the
before he
Incredible
trusted
Hulk.
Snow.
He was Bill Bixbying it to me in this episode. Like,
Mhm.
just don't make me angry. The dude made him angry, but he definitely that was a straight up kill. And people complained about Beverly in self-defense last season. Is anyone saying anything about what Mbenga did in this episode? Because it seems extreme, particularly the end scene. Now I get it. I do understand his perspective in that the guy was a murderer and he may have been trying to play the Federation, and he kept like trying to convince Mbenga. But like the twist that Mbenga was the person that killed those guys that this guy's taking credit for, like that was a good twist. But it was, I mean, definitely we were supposed to be uncomfortable at the end of that episode. And the fact that Chapel lied.
Yeah. Now we know that,
Which I know Braxton loves.
we know that Mbenga is still on the Enterprise at the time of the original series, but is no longer chief medical officer. That's Dr. McCoy. So the question is, something happens where Mbenga is reduced in rank, and whether he's on the Enterprise in the first season or not of the original series. I don't think Mbenga shows up to season 2, if I recall correctly. So you could make the argument that something forces Mbenga to step back, step down, and rebuild. And this could potentially be that.
Which is a good story arc. I mean, it's honest. I think if you're telling a story, like not all of our Star Trek characters have to be these pristine, I mean, there's going to be moral ambiguity. Well, there's a difference between moral ambiguity and murder, right? Like there's definitely, I don't know. I still am rooting for Mbenga at the end of the day that he'll get his stuff together, because it's all coming from a place of what Starfleet has put him through. Like in that scene that final scene where they were at Tent City and those casualties, well, when they were about to go out, he's like, it's a suicide mission. He's telling that guy that they saved, he's like, I can get you off on medical leave. Do not do this. And he's like, no, you taught me Starfleet or nothing. Like, I obey orders. Like, again, that militaristic thing versus the utopia of the Federation. Where are we?
100%.
But it was, it felt like Star Trek. It didn't not feel like Star Trek. It just felt like a very gritty version.
Do you guys feel like there would be cameras in multiple places on the ship? Like when La'a was doing her investigation, like she was looking at camera footage from like somewhere in sickbay. Like that was a thing that I was thinking, because I was like, you know what? In our modern world, like there's like cameras.
Yeah, like I can't imagine. I mean, I guess individual
hospital
rooms don't tend to have cameras, do they? No, I wouldn't think so.
Usually not. Surgical bays, hallways.
Yeah, I don't know how that would apply.
His private office probably does not.
Yeah.
I mean, because she saw him from like a distance. Like, I feel like one of the reasons why
where it's hard to tell on a camera what happened, the same way where it's hard, like, because of the way they filmed it, it's hard for us to be like, what exactly is the sequence of events?
I think they wanted us to see it from Chapel's point of view, that like she's like walking up and she sees like a little tussle, and then like the dude is dead. Like, but then
And Chapel may have erased
lied a
footage.
little bit too, you know.
Yeah. Chapel may have erased footage too.
I don't know how that footage got erased, guys. It just, we have nothing from this timestamp to this timestamp. How convenient.
But then also Chapel wanted that dude dead. Like in the past, like when he
Make
like
him
gave her
pay.
that compound B, she said, "Oh yeah, make him pay."
It's
Well, if we're gonna condemn, well, let's condemn her for what she actually did and not make up some more crimes, given what we saw the man do. Perhaps.
No, I was gonna say they didn't erase footage, they made new footage, and we're gonna get a scene of La'an walking in going, "It's a fake."
Yeah.
and then Ken's gonna get to yell about holograms and canon and Strange New Worlds.
You know, I feel like La'an gave like a look in like when they were talking to Chapel. And
Yeah, like, are you buying this?
Like, I felt like La'an thought that she was lying. You know, like it was just the look that she gave. You know,
Yeah, I think so too.
La'an sussing it out. She said, "I know she lied." Like, but he's a monster, so like I'm gonna let it slide.
Up until they revealed the lie, like that, you know, that Mbenga was the one who killed those generals, I was really on the side of, oh man, I really hope that this general like is being legitimate and is trying to do peace. But then like the lie came out, and then he's like, you know, the Federation needs me, and suddenly I was like, oh, you know, he might not be a spy for the Klingons now, but I no longer have the same belief in his new loyalty to the Federation like that. He could easily flip back again.
I found it interesting how anti-Klingon he was. Whereas compared to like someone like Garrick, who's like ousted from the Cardassian, but he's not like, he still considers himself a Cardassian. Whereas he like,
is it bad that I was like, it's like the ghost of Christmas present and know me better, man? Like that's almost the vibe I got from him.
Well, yeah, post lie that comes all off to me now as a role he was playing to like, you know, as opposed to any sort of.
I'm laughing because you're right. You're completely right about.
It just, I watched it and I'm like, I don't know how to read this guy because he does not feel like any of the Klingons that we know from TOS or TNG, except for even Worf was like dour, but like the Klingons that we saw that were leaders, they were rough. They were there wasn't like this softness about them or like this gallant joviality that he kind of had that I'm like, this is a really serious thing. And I don't know if gallant joviality is what we're going for here, bud, but you do you.
Yeah, like I think
I admire maybe that he was trying to make peace and he was going for something that was bigger than himself.
Like,
but yeah, he could have flip-flopped.
He was honestly like, chill is maybe not the right word, but just not taking it seriously enough. What the war was, what everyone had been through. Like
and I'm trying to remember how long ago it was. Like this war is specifically the war that we saw in Discovery Season 1, correct?
Yes.
Yes. That was 9 months long, right? Something like that, or 18 months long.
It was about 4 years previous to this episode.
Right, and the war itself was
years ago.
18 months long or so, right? It's like a year and a half.
Yeah. But yeah, where it's like he knows he's talking to people who are like part of this war. Like
he's being a little too like I get you. Like I get you. I don't know.
Yeah, like he's like I'm trying to think of like a real world comparison that's not like making light of something like an actual tragedy. So but
he kind of struck me a little bit of Chancellor Gorkon.
Okay.
From Star Trek 6. A little bit of Chancellor Gorkon. But that's the closest comparison of any other Klingon that I think that was like kind of acted like this.
I mean, we have Klingon scientists that we've never really met that much. Like, there are different types of Klingons. We don't want to pigeonhole or stereotype them. It's just that he came off, like, I think what it was Ortegas was really suspicious of him. And so I clocked that, and
like, the way he was, like, trying to, like, it was like, it just seemed, I guess it seemed unrealistic to me in a way, like, not like I think the character's bad. I think he was written like this on purpose, where the way he's just like, no, all Klingons are bad except me. Like, where he was like trying to like push up the Federation, like, in a way that's like, I don't believe that you're genuine.
Listen, things weren't so great when we get to Kirk and the Klingons either, so I don't know.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's an interesting thing to think about, right? Because you really don't flesh out the Klingon society in any great detail until you get to the Next Generation from the timeline, right? So the Klingons in the original series are kind of almost one-note characters. They're the Chinese, they're the Soviets, they're, you know, and that carries through into Star Trek 6, right? It's the parable of
Guess who's
Chernobyl.
coming to dinner?
Yeah, you know, the Chernobyl incident, and then the same. So there are definitely Soviet Union parallels, Red China parallels through.
I almost wonder if, like, this incident is something that ends up setting back relations with the Klingon, because the one time we sent a Klingon ambassador, like, the one time there was a Klingon ambassador,
straight up murdered.
The doctor murdered him.
Well, I saw an article that kind of said that this kind of lays the groundworks for everyone's suspicions of Klingon peace in Star Trek 6. That it would make sense that, you know, all of the Starfleet admirals and stuff are going to be like, you can't trust them. And based on this, in my head, I was like, but you have this, Klingon that did all these peace talks, and I was like, oh right. Based on how this ends, everyone thinks that he was still like a murderous, bloodlusty guy.
Right, like it also paints the whole brush stroke of the Klingons are like this, just gets reinforced because of what they did. So yeah, that's a whole other issue.
But they're not the Federation and the Klingons are not at war again.
No.
I mean, they could be at war again, but in Star Trek, they're not on war. They're not at war into Organia. Then they declare war, right? So, and then it's the Organian peace treaty at that point, for whatever that is, hit or miss as it goes through. So I do want to say one thing while I'm thinking about it is, if you have not watched, we talked about Melissa Navia earlier. If you have not watched the interview with her on this week's The Ready Room, I strongly encourage you to watch it. It's very powerful, very emotional.
I still need to watch that.
Yeah, it's very, very good.
She talks about her partner who passed away, Brian, and how that kind of affected her in seasons 1 and 2, because he was there for her. You know, he was with her in season 1, and then he had passed just before the premiere of season 1, and then in season 2, she was dealing with that loss.
Right, and the interview with Babs was also very good in this. Will Wheaton is a really good interview. I mean, he gets all of his questions from writers, I'm sure, but he's a really good interview.
He's very empathetic, like he puts people at ease, which is great. Yeah. You know, it's The Ready Room. I highly recommend just watching it after each episode, because there's awesome behind the scenes stuff in it.
Yeah.
You know, I have a secret. Like, Will Wheaton is so annoying to me. Like, I can't stand to hear.
That's not a secret, Braxton. I would be surprised if you said otherwise.
I have to bear him just to watch the show sometimes. He's like, hey nerds, and I'm like, oh my god, like, stop.
He's just very excited, you know, and he has a character that he's like he's I
enjoy Will Wheaton.
He's come a long way,
but
he's had a lot of trauma in his life too.
I enjoy Will Wheaton, like, deeply. I totally had a crush on Wesley when I first watched TNG. I was 12. That's because sometimes people think that's weird. I was a child.
I love Stand By Me.
I do understand why.
Stand By Me.
Like why Will Wheaton wouldn't be everyone's, like, personal favorite.
Like, I'm a nerd, but he is so nerdy.
Since Aaron put this in the comments, because I knew this is Aaron's point of view on Will Wheaton.
Who do you guys thinking of Klingons, who is your favorite Klingons? I have 2. The Dora sisters are my favorite Klingons.
That's fair.
Gowron.
Kalar.
He's the one with the eyes, right? Galrot. He's the
Martok.
You will not win this day.
But Kalar, they're all good choices. But I'm going to go back to Core from Errand of Mercy.
I kind of like the Klingon Star Trek
Always.
5. He was funny.
Yeah.
What was his
I
name?
think Martok was specifically after the real Martok, not the Martok you first meet.
You mean
the Martok with one eye.
Like my favorite Kalar, I gotta dip out of this early, unfortunately. But this was lovely, and I will chat with you all later.
Bye, Stan.
Bye, Stan. See you soon.
I'm surprised nobody said Vogue.
Are you?
Oh, well.
I was surprised.
That'd be a choice.
I kid.
Because I even like when I'm like ranking Klingons, I kind of forget about Worf because we see so much of him, more of him compared to every other Klingon.
Oh, I'm with Joanne on this one. Kalis, how could I have forgotten Kalis?
There's so many good Klingon characters.
She was fabulous.
Like I think that
the
Duras sisters are so funny. I just enjoy.
They are.
They're
so
just
fun.
over the top hilarious. Like when they invite Picard for tea. That scene.
Are you talking about the Savage Curtain Kalis, Joanne? The Savage Curtain Kalis, or?
Oh, I was thinking the TNG Kalis. No,
yeah, I'm sure. I just first time you saw him was in the Savage Curtain. Yeah.
I would think it was TNG. Sorry, Ken.
I forgot about the first one.
Yeah.
So where do you guys think this episode ranks in our season, and maybe even like the entire body of Strange New Worlds episodes?
You are not of the body. Oh wait, what are you talking about?
I mean, I think it's so all the different episodes are tonally so different, and I love it. I love that we're getting different. It's a little bit of whiplash, but I'm glad. Like, I don't want the same thing every week. I want to have Strange New Worlds.
It's like almost hard to rank because it depends what mood I'm in. Like I'll try to keep this quick, but I had a conversation once with and my manager and a couple other people about Taylor Swift, and they asked me what my favorite songs were, and I said it's hard because it depends what mood I'm in, because it's like a very varied discography. That's how I feel about Strange New Worlds.
It's a good analogy to music. It's true, but I think this is one of the top episodes of this season. Like, I would probably rank it up there. But I love last week's episode, and that was a completely different episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, to me, the Lower Decks crossover would be number one. This might be 2 or 3 for me. Because of the acting and the intensity.
Mm-hmm.
So this was what's interesting about. I've been reading some commentary about the Lower Decks episode, and again, I think this was Burnett who said this, that it was a Star Trek episode all about Star Trek, and which is interesting because you can make the argument that those old scientists, including the title, was basically a Star Trek episode all about Star Trek. The best Star Trek is about morals and morality, and this episode was a morality tale. Tonight's episode was a morality tale, more so than last week's episode. And again,
though, like, it's like Trouble with Tribbles versus City on the Edge of Forever. Like, they're just 2 different ones, but you might put one above the other depending on what mood you're in. Like,
I agree. But the idea that war, some of the most powerful Star Treks ever have been about war. A Private Little War. The DS9 episodes in the Pale Moonlight, the TNG episodes, which we mentioned, and now this one. There's been, through the years of Star Trek, the various iterations of Star Trek, they've done their take on the trials of war. And this was a good episode for now. For this was this series' A Private Little War. And it was interesting to see how they did it. And yes, it was, like Brian is saying, it was intense, it was dark, it was definitely massive character studies, completely different than last week, completely different of the oh my gosh, Spock is human episode, and it's going to be completely different than the let's all sing a song episode next week.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, there's
yeah.
just the order that they're airing in is just interesting. I would like to say, because I know Jill was asking, like, some people are saying online that Mbenga's character has been assassinated. I really dislike this, like, black and white world of, like, well, he did this really bad thing, so, like, he's just done. He's irredeemable. Like, no one is irredeemable in Star Trek, and people make decisions. Like, the whole idea of Star Trek is to understand where people are coming from, and if they make a wrong choice, like, it's what Pike says. Like, don't people deserve, even Mbenga, who's saying there is no forgiveness, like, doesn't he deserve forgiveness on through that Federation Pike ideology of, you know, that openness and that openness to change, right? So I don't consider anyone assassinated, because even if they made like really, really bad decisions, like they were trying to do with the ambassador here, I think even the ambassador could have been redeemed had he shown that he was, you know, had we gotten more about him. I felt like that was just, he was too peripheral. But I don't like, I didn't love what Mbenga did. Obviously, I don't agree with what he did, but I also don't like the idea that he's not he's like written off because of it. I don't think that's fair to a person.
I want my heroes to kill people who deserved it. I wanted to see his throat slashed and have it be like gory. That's what I was ready for, and I didn't get it.
I don't think that we saw the character be bad enough to earn it, though. Like, it wasn't like a character that we didn't even see him do much. So I think that was part of the problem. We heard a lot of talk, you know?
Geek Filter just gave me an idea asking about if Mbenga is going to sing about murder. And now well, I know Rachel has. Has everyone seen Once More with Feeling from Buffy?
Yep.
I now realize that there's a lot of different characters who have things that they could sing about. Like, this could definitely be the equivalent episode in the singing episode. A lot of personal things they've been holding back come out.
It's interesting because I do think this is a really good episode, but compared with last week's episode and knowing my personality, probably next week's episode, I'm probably going to end up rewatching those episodes more than I end up rewatching this, just because it's like this episode's so intense that I don't know that it'll be like, let's put it on just to have a little fun time with Star Trek.
No, it's not one of those episodes, right? It is an intense episode, and it is a very emotional episode. It's along the lines of I can never really watch Schindler's List again. Fantastic, amazing movie. I'll probably never watch it again. It's the same kind of thing where you have a super intense thing that's very powerful, very well done. And as I said here, as is on the screen now, this is, and I feel, Mbenga's I can live with it moment. It is in the pale moonlight for Dr. Mbenga. I mean, Sisko redeemable? What Sisko did with bringing the Romulans into the Dominion War? I mean, that was our lead character. But the best Star Trek characters are
Definitely.
Shades of Grey, but not that episode.
Actually, also, In the Pale Moonlight is my favorite Star Trek episode. I like Avery Brooks's performance in there is great, and I think I have this up there with like that. But I probably, even though In the Pale Moonlight is my favorite, I probably end up rewatching it less than like some others because it's like intense in a way, and this is like more intense just because you can get away with more on TV now. But
but I mean, it was to Jill's point too. I mean, Catherine Janeway killed Tuvix.
Oh, let's not start. It's too late to be starting Tuvix. We got like 5 minutes left.
I just rewatched that recently.
Aaron, I understand your pain. I feel you.
I would be more up to debate Tuvix if people in my actual life didn't use it as a reason to be sexist about Janeway.
Oh no, that's not good.
It's not great.
Not great.
We don't need this story.
Some people will just find any excuse to be sexist about Janeway. It's sad.
Yeah.
But
I've got a fun story for not here because it takes too long to tell about wearing a Janeway costume to a Halloween thing and then have like a guy being weird about it.
Oh, that's always fun.
Man, nuts.
After I was thinking about this episode this afternoon, and I was remembering that episode from DS9, Wrong's Darker Than Death or Night, and like, I mean, they're very different, like kinds of episodes. But it was like, just like dark stuff that I can remember like in Star Trek. And that's also a great name for an episode.
I like that they take themselves seriously here, and the acting performances were phenomenal. I mean, the whole crew was involved. You had everything was spread out. It wasn't just M'Benga that was the focus, though he was the primary character. I love at the end. I want to know more about Pike and M'Benga's relationship going back, right? Because we haven't really seen them together a lot. Even when he lost his daughter, he didn't really tell the crew about that. We haven't really talked about that at all. Like at all.
He knows the important stuff. He knows that dude can fight.
Yeah. Well, Pike's not going to mess with them because if you imagine a Pike and M'Benga SmackDown, like that would be tough.
Pike would get his ass handed to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Without Protocol 12 serum, even.
I mean, hey, M'Benga can fight Klingons in hand-to-hand combat and kill them. Like, hey, dude, like he's a bad mofo, dude.
Yeah, it's tough. But I think overall, like the performances were so strong that I was riveted by the episode, and I wanted to keep watching, despite like the it might be too intense for some people. Like, let's talk about veterans of war, PTSD. Like, this might be rough for people who have actually been in combat to watch, or maybe it might be good for them to watch. I don't know. But it's something that you have to consider because this really was also dealing with, post-combat situations and how you come out of that or don't come out of that. Like M'Benga says, I didn't want to go back to my family changed, but now I see that I have to, right?
Right. So, guys, I'm going to have to step out.
Me too.
I appreciate the opportunity to be on this one. I give it, it's very good. I give it 9 out of 10. And it took some great risks this episode, and very, very, very provocative. And so when Star Trek takes risks and is provocative, I have to give it some high marks. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And thanks for everybody in the chat tonight. It's been fun and always good to see you, Braxton, RC, Rachel, Ken.
Yeah. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah,
it's great. Thank you for coming on as always.
Thank
Michelle,
you.
what's your rating?
My 9 out of 10. I'll go with Ken on this one.
Wow.
First time for everything.
Come on.
Braxton, we got the high five tonight. We're on the same page. It's good.
Wait.
Feeling it.
Ready? Go over here. Ready? No, wait.
What do we? Okay.
This way. Ready? There we go.
Air high five. Air high five. Let's do the office air high five.
Yeah,
epic fail.
That worked so well.
Come on, Rachel. Here we go.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Also, one other thing that just came to mind. I really expected us to get one more scene with Chapel and Spock. Like if maybe I need to go back and watch, but I felt like that was a little unresolved. I mean, I guess it's kind of an ongoing thread, but it just felt like
we're probably gonna get it in song and dance form, I guess.
That's why I was saying like this is going to be the Once More with Feeling episode because I feel like that's a storyline that needs wrapping up, and
I did
like
what they were doing with them this week, where Spock is trying to figure out. He's like, "It's not my fault, but also I feel responsible." Like that, I like that idea. Like, oh, Spock's kind of dealing with the first time he would have these types of feelings about something. I also did love Spock's move of just like, I am going to talk about the art of war to get him to stop talking about this.
He's like, I can help with that. Yeah.
I also would this be the earliest reference to Raktajino?
I was just about to say something about that.
Yeah.
Timeline wise, I think it might be.
This episode,
I Raktajino, even though I don't like coffee, I would probably hate it.
Based on everything else I know about, I tolerate coffee. Coffee is a necessary evil for me to get through my day. But I feel like based on what I know about other Klingon food, I wouldn't be super into it.
Well, it can't be alive, so I think that's good.
You don't know.
You know what? I think too many Federation people drink it on a regular basis for it to be alive.
Also, it doesn't have to be alive, but something could be in it.
I hate that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan either. But
Yeah, it's just also, I tend to drink. Do you think a Klingon would be really mad if I ordered, like, can I get an ice frappuccino? Like, I live in a really hot place. I usually get chai lattes, but when I do occasionally get coffee, usually with a ton of chocolate, it is usually iced.
I think they require you to like cut your hand open and bleed into it or something,
Yeah.
like, you know, to.
Rachel, I give this episode a 9.5. I thought it was almost perfect. I think that I would give it a 10 if it had 2 more action scenes. Like, I was prepared to see Dr. Mbanga like kill some more people, and I also wanted the shots to be wider. I wanted to see more.
Yeah.
They just didn't give me enough.
My guess is is I call this the Hunger Games effect, where there's a ton of violence going on, so you're trying not to show too much of it, so if you keep that rating down. This is my hand moving. It's supposed to be me mimicking the shaky cam of the first Hunger Games movie.
Where they're trying to, a little bit of a lens flare / blur.
Yeah, they're just like, where's the only time where I'm like, I'm fine with this because they're trying to keep this movie PG-13, and there's just tons of violence. But I would say, like, yeah, I think action shots in general look a little better, wider. Yeah, I want to Raktajito on the rocks. The alliteration there makes things sound better.
Also, this episode gave perspective on like one of the earlier episodes, like when like Mbanga and Chapel do like the compound B, and like they kick like all the dudes' asses, and like before they jump out into space, Mbanga's like, "Oh, we've been in tougher places than this." Like that, this episode fleshed that out. It's like, you know what? Like we have literally been to like hell and back. Like, oh yeah, we've been in like
it's
tougher places than that.
Tough, but like, it's true. I think I also now I need Aaron. Jesus Christ, Raktajito. I think I also give this a 9 out of 10. It was like I said, I don't see it being one. I'm like constantly like, why don't I put that one on? But like, it's so well done, and like the performances are so good, like from everyone, honestly. But like Babs is always so good, so it's not like I'm surprised that he was really good when they gave him like an episode that focused on him. Like, but it's so. I'm gonna put out the he's had 2 episodes focus on him. This and the Elysium Kingdom, and wow, are those different?
Yeah.
Like,
didn't the one when they were doing like the green stuff, like didn't that episode focus on him as well?
That was the season opener, wasn't it?
I think that was more of an ensemble to me. It wasn't like he wasn't the only focus.
Yeah.
It's how I like, at least in my head. He was a focus, but
yeah, he wasn't like leading the show like he did in these 2 episodes. The one that you're talking about in this one. Yeah.
Based on some of the comments, though, I am looking forward to getting an Ortega's episode, because I definitely want to see like whatever her war flashbacks are. And
well, the thing, so we were promised one, but we're not sure if they counted the one where she had her memory gone for half the episode. So
let's make it, but like, also I would also rate this one a 9.5. I really enjoyed it. Like I'm definitely gonna go back and watch, because I mentioned earlier, like I a lot of times I watch this like while I'm working, so like I'm probably only giving it like 85% of my attention. And I definitely feel like I definitely went back a few times because I felt like there were some visual things going on that I wanted to make sure I didn't miss.
Yeah.
Ooh, I agree with Jill that Mbanga and Chapel are the breakout stars of this show. And Jill, I don't like violence like Marcelo. Like Mbanga just made me feel bloodlust when Chapel was like, ooh, like whoever did this, like, oh, like kill him or something similar. I was like, ooh, I wanted it, dude. I wanted it.
And also, like, and like they have been so good at building up the fact like we've served together before and we have this history, but I was like so good seeing that history.
Yeah, totally.
But hey, because I haven't mentioned it out loud yet, hey, all the writing and acting was really good. They should pay them better.
Indeed.
No, I'm gonna keep mentioning it until they do. That's the plan.
Hopefully so.
Oh, they will. I'll say they're ready to go the long haul.
And yeah, I think that's exactly it, Brian. It's like the bond is like so specific and like can never be broken.
Do we ever? Because I never really watched a lot of TOS. It's been on like I've been slowly working my way through it a bit. But was there any scenes between M'Benga and Nurse Chapel in the original series?
I wish other people were still here because I think
That's
so,
fair.
but I could not. Do not quote me on that.
Ken knows.
Yeah, exactly. Ken knows for sure. Does anyone in the chapel, Father, if you're there, do you know?
Does Jill know?
I'm going to Memory Alpha. It seems like or at least to see if they're in the same episodes. That'll tell me that much.
I don't think I've ever seen that episode. What do you mean by that? Oh no.
Yeah, I'll say that's not
I am also like I've not seen all of the original series, and I've been working through that in Enterprise to like, which are.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize he was only in 2 episodes of the original series.
Yeah, he's not in a ton.
Okay, yeah, they have one episode together, and apparently they do, based on the chat, they do share a scene.
So he totally makes sense to me as the character to be like, hey, he's there, but like we don't know a ton about him. Let's bring him in and expand on that character. Like that totally makes sense to like that choice.
Yeah, I think the character's amazing. I think they've done awesome work.
Yeah, he's so good. Joel, Jesus Christ. Yeah, as Father was saying, he's only in 2 episodes. Yeah, there would be being like, I don't remember seeing him a ton, but I also haven't because it's only 2 episodes, so I not the bit like I don't like the original series is not where I'm like encyclopedic about. It's more like TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, like that era.
Yeah.
Which is like honestly, and like I enjoy the original series, but honestly, Strange New Worlds has made me like more excited about like when I have time to go watch original series episodes. Just because I'm like I have like news shades on a lot of the characters, like Spock and Kirk.
I feel like if I go and look it up, maybe I would know it, but just by saying the slapping scene doesn't evoke anything for me.
I will have to look that up later. At that, I'm intrigued by that sentence, Jill.
Yeah, what? There's potentially a lot to unpack there.
Yeah. That'll definitely.
My brain needs a better search engine. Gosh.
My brain has a decent search engine. RC could tell you I have a weirdly good memory for some shit. It just doesn't leave. That's fair, Jill, about being intentionally vague.
That's fair. Yeah.
Okay, is there anything we didn't talk about about the episode?
I think we covered everything I was kind of thinking about.
Yeah. Same.
I hope this isn't the last time that we see, because I feel like because of its reoccurring nature, the Klingon War, like we're not done hearing about it. So I hope this is not the last time we see Pike and Omega discuss it. Because I did like that scene a lot.
Yeah. it would be interesting to see Pike get more perspective on like what the people who are actually in the war like we're going through. I think this was the poll, which didn't. I think we're saying that was it was murder or self-defense. I'm guessing that was the poll because I wasn't looking. I was looking at the comments in here, not.
So there was a poll. I didn't see it.
I don't think it pops. So we could see comments here to like where to pull them up, but I don't think it shows you the poll when you do that. Yeah, and Benga claims at least that he didn't start the fight. Yeah. My brain just went, he didn't start the fire, so I don't know what that says about me.
I mean, I feel like in his mind, he feels like that, like he was telling that dude to leave him alone. The dude like put his hand on his shoulder, like trying to hug him, like, "Oh, brother, come here." And it's like, you know what, dude? I told you to leave me alone.
He ran into my knife. He ran into my knife 10 times.
10 times. Yeah, I mean, and Benga said no, like that Klingon would be a pushy asshole at some point. Like, I'm not saying he deserved to die for that, but oh, thank you, Joe. That is helpful.
Murder wins, huh? Okay.
Murder wins.
Yeah, murder wins.
Justice.
Squish. Well, we're talking about musicals a little early, but I'm like wondering if the musical episode is going to be like have a bunch of like references to like famous musicals. Now, like it'll be
I'm so interested to hear the in-story reason.
I have no idea what to expect.
Is it going to be? Is it going to be an alien entity that's taking over the ship? Is it going to be? Is it going to be the Scrub style that someone's has a brain injury they can't solve? I love TV shows that aren't musicals that do a musical episode.
Same because as I tweeted when this was first announced, I'm sorry about how annoying I'm going to be. The fact that this is going to come out while like I'm surrounded by a bunch of Star Trek fans. It's like I'm so sorry for how annoying I'm going to be. I'm sorry. Of course, you respect.
So you're not going to be able to do the show next Thursday.
No, there's some plans for that for someone else to kind of host because I don't see how hosting the show from Vegas would be possible from either in the middle of a convention or on hotel room Wi-Fi.
That'd be what 6 p.m.
Yeah, this is one thing.
Time?
I'm gonna be on the Friday show next week to talk about it, then some other people will host. I know we've talked, but I don't know if that's been like decided. So I don't want to like just say, yeah, this person's hosting it, and they're like, I didn't agree to that.
Yeah, I'll be at Gen Con in Indianapolis, so I will not be able to join in for the next one. So I'm really happy I was able to make it to this one.
Yeah, I need the cons to not all happen on the same weekend because I would have loved to go to Gen Con too.
Well, maybe next year. Although if they do it the same time every year, maybe not.
Oh no.
Well, have a good time at Gen Con. Rachel, have a good time at STLV.
Thank
you. It's
you.
gonna be fab. Have a good time with like Stan and like Michelle and Ken and Father.
Yeah, there's so many people that I have never met, like not like obviously like actors, but like so many like Star Trek like friends I have never met in person.
Are you gonna go to the gay clubs with Stan?
I mean I'm straight, but straight white girls go to gay clubs all the time, so I guess I can
all
do
the
that.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I'm down for a gay club. Like, they're usually a lot more fun than straight clubs. Let's be honest.
You guys are gonna have a great time in Vegas.
I look forward to going someday.
Yes.
Star Trek or otherwise.
Wait. Yeah, I've never been to Vegas, so I'm getting in early Wednesday to kind of try and walk around Vegas and do.
You have to go to the
non-Star Trek
Sphere.
things.
The Sphere.
Oh, right.
Oh my God, that thing looks amazing.
That thing looks insane. That thing looks insane. I was gonna try and see a show, but I don't think there's that many matinees, which I think there's just gonna be stuff happening every night with with STLV. But we'll see. In fact,
And that's how a con is. Like, it's kind of really, you might not even like leave the hotel complex because there's things that are packed in from like day to night.
I can always getting from Texas to Vegas is not the hardest thing in the world. So like, if I'm like, oh, I want to do more Vegas, I can go back to Vegas. Like, yeah, exactly. There's what Father is saying. Probably just won't leave the Rio.
Dude, you guys got to go to the Sphere,
I'm
though.
not saying, Father, we've got to go to the weird sci-fi Sphere, though.
I just keep imagining the little aliens from Toy Story and all of them going, Sphere.
I guess I will leave the Rio because I'm not staying at the Rio, but I'm only staying across
that makes
the street,
sense,
so I won't go very far. Yeah. But I'm so excited. Like, I don't know if I should, like, maybe it'll be a surprise when I post, but I've been working on a couple of cosplays. No Sphere, only Rio. The Sphere does seem Borg-like. It's a Sphere. But I also like the Sphere seems like it would break easily, so I'm like, I feel like you're gonna get there to be like a loading error. Like,
all right, friends. Well, I think I'm gonna head out for the night.
Yeah, I think it might be a good time. If anyone have like anything last thing they wanted to say or plug or anything?
Well, you can always check out me and Rachel on the Masks and Mayhem podcast, where we play a superhero role-playing game known as Mutants and Masterminds. We've been going. It'll be 5 years in October. We just finished our second season just a little bit ago.
I need you to not say it's 5 years anymore.
Oh wow! Look at
yeah.
I'm sorry about the passage of time. That part I don't have control over.
Hey,
work on it.
And you can find me at Leviathan026 on X.
I was like, what is that? And then I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Absolutely not.
You can find me at RC Byler on Blue Sky or Threads or anywhere else on the internet, Reddit. I'm everywhere. But at this point,
I'm
don't bother looking for me on Twitter.
Dramaturg884 on everywhere, including Twitter. I'm going to call it Twitter because that's what it is. I want to point out that no one calls Google Alphabet and no one calls Facebook Meta.
It's just me?
It's just you. You know what? I'll be a little spicy. I'll stop dead naming Twitter when Elon Musk stops dead naming his own child.
Oh whoa! Ooh, oh whoa! Look at you, Rachel. Truth tea.
Yeah, that's it's gonna be Twitter. That's also making it so everything is dark mode is dumb, even though I like dark mode. Some people let people have the choice. It's weird. But yeah, I'm Dork884 everywhere, and I have problems with Elon Musk, including the fact that RC wrote Elon Musk as a supervillain into our show.
Hey, in my defense, I did that 4.5 years ago. He's specifically
that
Italian Elon Musk from the year 69-420.
What's funny is once someone's called our show serious on Reddit, and we have stuff like that, and my character regularly drops anvils on people, so I guess it's like Strange New World. It's total whiplash. That is great, and I'll need to find Joel. I need to find that extension, although I don't know if that would work for my phone. Yeah, I guess the main place to other thing I work on, which is Massive Mayhem with RC. And yeah, I guess, and if you're in Vegas next weekend, come say hi. Okay, I guess live long and prosper, everyone.